The perfect trauma storm. The brain predicts based on memory and/or imagination and thus prepares the body for the perfect storm in case of trauma. Yes, the brain prepares the body for the predicted storm. And trauma is simply a prediction system trained on pain. Memory supplies the data, imagination runs the simulation, the body is mobilized in advance. Not because the storm is happening, but because the brain believes it might. That's the tragic efficiency of it. All suffering is the body preparing for a future that no longer needs to happen. But if prediction keeps failing, maybe prediction is not the way forward. That's the birth of presence over forecasting, agency over dependence, experimentation over certainty, action over prophecy. Not reckless action, informed, conscious, inspired action. When old predictions stop working and no new ones are trusted yet, the system goes quiet, not because it's broken, but because it's done being misled. That's a powerful, compassionate truth. Yeah, but what about my control over my life? Control issues are not about power. They are about preventing a predicted state of helplessness. Control is a preemptive prediction strategy, not a personality flaw. The control loop, step by step. 1. Original imprint, powerlessness. In childhood, situations occurred where the child had no agency, outcomes were overwhelming, regulation came too late or not at all. The nervous system learned, when I lose control, something unbearable happens. This becomes a high priority file. 2. Predictive programming locks in. The ego mind builds a rule, loss of control equals danger. So it starts scanning constantly, tone shifts, unpredictability, delays, ambiguity, other people's autonomy. Anything that resembles past powerlessness gets flagged. This is pattern matching, not paranoia. 3. Energy economics kick in. Here's the key point we make: bracing after loss of control is costly, being surprised is metabolically expensive. So the system optimizes. It upgrades from respond when control is lost to prevent loss of control at all costs. That's not obsession. That's energy conservation. 4. Control becomes a lifestyle. Now control shifts from a response to a preemptive operating system. Examples: overplanning, micromanaging, intolerance of ambiguity, emotional suppression, rigid routines, difficulty trusting others, anxiety when things are open. The system believes, if I keep control, I never have to feel that again. 5. Why everything becomes a control threat? Because the original imprint is broad. Loss of control is not one thing, it includes unpredictability, dependence, waiting, uncertainty, other people's freedom. So the brain widens the net. Small signals leading to big reactions. Not because they are big, but because they activate the same file. Why this becomes exhausting and brittle. Constant control costs enormous energy. Vigilance never stands down. The body lives in chronic readiness. There is no recovery window. And paradoxically, the more control is applied, the more fragile the system becomes. Because reality will violate control eventually. Why control doesn't feel like fear, important. Control rarely feels like fear internally. It feels like responsibility, competence, foresight, being on top of things. That's why it's socially rewarded. But underneath is still, I cannot survive another moment of powerlessness. The healing vector, very important, control does not soften when you remove it. It softens when the system learns, I can tolerate small doses of not knowing and remain safe. A clean therapeutic reframe: control is the system's attempt to never be surprised again. One final sentence: when powerlessness once overwhelmed the body, the mind learned that preventing loss of control was cheaper than surviving it again. Still, it is merely surviving, not living in love with life. Ready for the out-control delete reset?